Okay, so you'll notice, by the way, that we have this compiled with warnings symbol here. Now, everything still works fine, and it looks nice, but it tells us, by the way, this no unused vars warning. It comes from the linter that comes with create React app, and it's saying the set user is assigned a value but never read. Now, your app isn't broken, but it is telling you, hey, and by the way, VS Code is saying the same thing. It's declared, but its value is never read. And so this is also a good sign. We probably don't need to use this for state. And so instead, a better way to do this, and a good way to show something else, is to give it a prop, except I'm going to destructure out that prop, and I'm going to say it should be passed a user prop. Now, if we do this, nothing will appear here. Or let's leave that there for a second. Nothing will appear here. It'll say blanks playlist because it's undefined. Nothing's passed there. But we can give it a default value. We can say equals Mickey. So, hey, if no data is passed to this app object, if no user prop is passed, just use the value Mickey. And then I can come in here. I can save this. It's still giving me the error for some reason, but this is working. Fantastic. Oh, it's giving me the error because I imported uState, but I'm not using it anywhere. So if I save this now, and now our app is compiled successfully again, and all that other good stuff. Cool. So let's head back to our playlist component, and let's add another state variable here. So let's say const current song index, current song IDX. We can just call it current song. Yeah, I'm going to leave it as current song IDX. And set current song IDX equals use state. And I'm going to say null here. So I'm going to say no current song at the moment. So no current song is playing at all. And then I'm going to use that current song index, and I'm going to create a variable here called, let's call it like, I don't know, active song, current. I don't want to call it current song because we were saying current song index. Let's go active track. That'll distinguish it. We'll say if current song exists or current song is equal to 0. And the reason I'm doing this is because JavaScript, if you give it a value and that value is 0, JavaScript evaluates that to false. And so we're just checking if this is a truthy value like this, Boolean. Is it a truthy value? Or is the value equal to 0? Then we'll say props.playlist.songs, and then we'll take the current song IDX. Otherwise, we'll say null. And again, I'm using this, is it current song IDX? Not current song. There we go. And I'm using this ternary syntax here, which all this says is like ternaries just say, if this is true, use this. Otherwise, use this. It's a much shorter way of using an if-else statement. And it's the same thing I used here, just a ternary saying, hey, is this true? If it is, do this first thing. Otherwise, do the second thing. Or at least return it in this case. But here we're storing either this value or this value in the active track variable. And so then we can actually use that, or at least we can display that active track somewhere, which we should probably do on the other side over here. So let's do on the other side of the buttons. We'll say div class name equals current song, and we'll give it a span. And inside the span, we'll say, hey, is the active track, does it exist? Is it a truthy value? If it is, let's return the current song plus 1 dot active track dot title. Now here's the problem. Notice how this is what we want to display inside the span. Oh, let's also do this. Let's just say otherwise null here. We're trying to conditionally render our current song. So if the active track is a truthy value, we want to render the current song index IDX plus 1, and then we want to display the active track.title. But the problem is that all of this is not a valid JavaScript expression. If we want to display JSX syntax, we could use a div in here, but there's a shorter hand way to do it in React. You just use these empty tags like this. And this is essentially saying, hey, treat this like a div, but when you actually render this to the screen, it shouldn't be anything. Just take whatever's inside it and put that in there. And so then we can actually use these variables and evaluate the JavaScript expression directly as a React element. So I save this, and I come to my application, and hopefully, oh, it's not rendering anything because the active track doesn't exist yet. But if I were to change this to 0, I should see it rendered somewhere. Okay, I still don't. Let's see why. What did I do wrong? Okay, well, this is actually a good time to show off the React debugger. So one thing that's really nice is that every React application has a React debugger that comes with it, the Devtools extension. And so here I'm just looking at the console, but a better thing to do is look at the components React Devtools. And you can get these Devtools if you don't have them. Type in Google Chrome extensions, React Devtools. And what it'll do is it'll show off each of the components in your application. And then if you click on them, it'll give you all the props and all the state for that component. And this is actually probably the most powerful thing about React, is because your UI is just a direct representation of your data, you can just look at the data that is causing that to be what it is. And so if I have a problem here, and I do, my playlist has an element in there that doesn't have data, I can look at the state, I can say, okay, the current index is 0. That is true. And so when I actually go over here to look at this current song index, I know that it is equal to 0. And so this first part has to also be a valid value. So props.playlist.songs, current song index. So I can start console.logging things here, but I think I actually figured it out just explaining this out loud. I'm now trying to render the active track.title, but I don't think that's what we called it. What do we call it again? Song name or movie title. Okay, let's go song name. Now let's see, hopefully that works. Yeah, there we go. Cool. Whole new world. Ooh, that does not look good. Let's go back here and let's say current song, and let's say margin left auto, so it goes as far away from the left as possible. Great. Okay, there we go. And now we have the actual song that's playing if we have an active song playing. And so this is actually, that's a great time, at least. It was a good excuse to show off some of the React debugger, and you can see all of the props, the song passed to it, the position for each of these tracks, and you can see all the data that is causing this component to look like what it is. And so again, if you don't have this React DevTools extension, I highly, highly recommend go into, if you're using Firefox, there's a React DevTools extension. If you go to Chrome, there's a React DevTools extension. I have no idea if one exists for Safari, but just good to know at least. And you can see the playlist. You can see that the state is paused and the state is 0. You can see the props passed to it. You can see all the songs here. And so this is just it's like almost essential if you're going to be developing with React that you have the DevTools available to you, because they're so useful. And again, I can see here that if I click this, it should change to playing. If I click it again, it changes to pause. So you can see your data updating in real time, which is, again, so, so, so valuable. So with that in mind, well, I wasted a lot of time, at least with my error, but that's okay because I got to show off the DevTools. Let's go into actually like updating and changing this active track next.